Are running Prometheans CRABBY enough in Tides of Torment? Since I'm mentioning them prominently in Vampire Coast related content, and I've done them as mounts for the generic lords, well, and Aranessa too, let's go over the units. These are wildly different than most things in the faction, and while I've said it before, I'll say it even louder here for 2026. This is your Tier 3 infantry in disguise. Recruited for 1000 gold and 250 upkeep, the default value for many a generic lord in the game, this unit comes with 12 entities, not 16, with 7,920 health between them, or 660 each, more than Minotaurs. Armor is 120 like the Lord mounts, and that, considering our loyal zombies are 15 armor, is a pretty huge difference. Until improved in the tech tree and other ways, there are no resistances. Leadership begins at 45, and not the 35 of zombies, but that's rough. Speed 45 and charge speed 60 are intolerably slow compared to a lot of monsters, but a far cry from zombie speed. Melee attack begins at 38. Given the other things I'm going to say about this unit, you might have expected it to be a lot lower. It's not. Attack interval 3.8 is a bit brisker than the standard median value. Splash cut size is medium, as in Empire Knights on down, and I can scarcely believe my eyes, but even in the new system, maximum targets damaged by splash is 5 per crab. This means that in a perfect scenario, 12 crabs could pincer 60 infantry entities, beginning an animation every 3.8 seconds after the last one ends. Melee defense begins at 48, which is not top tier, but it's pretty up there. Weapon strength of 90 is split base 25 and armor piercing 65, and while there's a lot which does more base damage, the AP damage is actually quite strong compared. Charge bonus of 22 is far from insignificant. It means melee attack 60 on the initial attack of any charge, and mass is 1500 per entity. Aside from being aquatic, fighting harder in water, and having undead features as standard, it is considered a siege attacker for better damage against buildings, though any wide unit is going to struggle against city gates. Oh well, you have reanimated cannons. The unit can hide in forest, causes fear, and has charge defense versus large. It doesn't have charge reflection, but the point is, it's not just using size and mass to thwart cavalry charges. Their charge bonuses against the crabs themselves are completely nullified, barring really special circumstances like Ogre Charge. This, combined with the other stuff, is why they have the Defender tag. Let's briefly cover the Gunnery Mob version, which is a Tier 4 building unit, and it's not the same building. It's the Missile Infantry building. Recruited for 1300 gold and kept for 325 upkeep, HP is slightly higher at 8112 from the presence of zombies on the back. Regular melee stats are 100% identical to the previous, so let's transition to the ranged. It's important to note this is not a weapon you can consciously aim. It functions like the auto attacks from the War Kitty, the Ark of Sotek, the Arachnarok Spider, and so on. It'll fire at stuff in range. You don't actually need guard mode to make it fire in melee. It will, just like with the Lords, because the entities on the backs are not considered engaged. That's proven by the footage. Ammunition 45 is stupidly high. Range is 90, missile strength is 34 officially, and these are hand cannons you see. Problem being, you don't have 120 entities firing. Base damage 4 and armor piercing 12 per flechette. Each shot fires 3 such projectiles. Reload time is 14 seconds like the regular unit. Total accuracy is the standard 20. Calibration distance of 45 means the spread gets significant past half its default range. Calibration area 3.5 meters means even under ideal circumstances, it's not tight clusters, though they will be tighter as total accuracy rises with veterancy. There is no multi-unit penetration, but we use Chaos Dwarf Blunderbuss rules. A corpse stops no shots. Let's keep in mind that black powder aplenty means it'll have plus 30% missile strength until it's below 80% ammo, and at this rate of fire and with that much ammo, that's going to account for a decent amount of time. The traits are the same, and this is technically a fire whilst moving unit. You may think of it as the slowest skirmish missile cavalry ever, but if you're fighting Chaos Warriors of Khorne with dual weapons, you will outrun them when they charge. so ranges and speeds are all relative. Also, the constant trickle of ranged damage applies the ranged damage missile morale debuff and damages damage, and more of this unit should be firing when it's in actual melee compared to, let's say, the regular unit in guard mode. Let us briefly address the Lamprey's Revenge, the Regiment of Renown of the Gunnery mod variant. For 1700 gold, for 125 upkeep, which is pretty stiff, we get it in a rank 9 state with leadership 55, melee attack 48, and melee defense 59. The missile strength shows as higher because it has lower reload time from veterancy, plus it's a lot more accurate than default, than a rank 0 unit. So what's the trick? There are two. First, it has regeneration, the old school version with old school 20% fire weakness, but regeneration on an undead unit with this kind of armor and tankiness is quite something. It also has expert charge defense, so it will resist the charge bonus of giant slayers while popping a few with hand cannons. It's something, though those slayers are nasty. In the redline skills, 3 pips in Rotting Death grants melee defense plus 6 and physical resistance plus 6%. This applies to both variants. This looks like garbage for the physical resistance, but stay tuned. The defense makes them even more tanky. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if the Gunnery mod skill affected the Gunnery version? It does. Reanimated Marksman at 3 pips adds ammunition plus 18% and missile strength plus 8%, obviously to the Gunnery version only. Hardened by Death grants rank 7 and up ones, both variants, melee attack plus 8, which is very substantial, weapon strength plus 12%, which only applies to melee damage, and spell resistance plus 15%, which will get ridiculous in Harkon's personal army. Wouldn't it be nice if in Sorcelled Weapon it does? Rank 7 and up Gunnery variants benefit from armor plus 12, missile strength another plus 12%, and spell resistance plus 15% again, which will get even more ridiculous in Harkon's army. Just saying. In the tech tree, 2 techs apply to the Gunnery versions specifically. Black Powder Oxide grants a blanket plus 5% missile strength to mainline missile units, including this one. Percussion caps adds plus 15% more ammunition, so the total gets pretty up there. The remainder applies to both variants, but they're stiff research time techs. Straining at the Leash grants them speed plus 10%, will take it, and charge bonus plus 15 flat. Now we started at 22, so now it's 37. That's not bad at all, considering this is a defender unit. Reinforced Carcasses grants plus 20% physical resistance, full time, so combined with the red line, that's 26% physical resistance, and they already had this kind of armor and melee defense. Finally, Enduring Reanimation slashes upkeep by 10% and allows for single turn local recruitment rather than 2 turns, which greatly increases your flexibility in recruiting them, particularly with shipbuilding admirals. So, having said all that, how do we use the Rotting Prometheans? Okay class, who was paying attention at the start? The first and most relevant way you use either version is as Tier 3 and 4 infantry, closing off flanks so that your gun lines, chevron, checkerboard, whatever, can fire without worrying about the flanks, and maybe the rear if you didn't corner or edge camp. In this role, they are stupidly good, and while far from invincible, they are capable of buying you so much extra time, you can get a lot of support running to clean things off their carapace wall. They also respond really well to Nehek healing, since they won't even lose entities easily. They have a flex roll with just enough speed to go attacking the enemy too, though a lot of the time you won't even bother. You can, though. What I really want to bring back up is the part I didn't appreciate before doing this video, because I don't think I looked at the stats since they altered splash damage. Max targets 5 means they almost keep pace with a similar kind of unit that relies on mad levels of physical resistance and even higher levels of melee defense to do something thematically similar. And those would be Oceanids, which have 16 entities. Now, their techs mostly focus on increasing their stats, and that includes hitting power. The Prometheans have a vast improvement in physical resistance with attack, but you may not get it for 100 turns. So, the most dramatic differences are that the Prometheans are armor piercing, and have 120 armor default, which is extremely effective against certain kinds of attacks. Magical attack and base damage heavy stuff is going to bounce off to a large enough degree. And what does this amount to? I mean, yes, you can get them to charge into the enemy with a level of decency denied to much of the faction. But what do you get from this? You slow the battle down and bog the enemy down while doing consistent armor shredding damage. One of the biggest dangers of the faction generally is getting overrun. Prometheans are, by themselves, an effective cure against getting overrun easily, provided you have the means to deal with huge log jams, like magic, lots of magic in fact. This is a complete transformation in the holding power you have, and while in the past, I was leery of outright replacing infantry with them, honestly, a lot of the time you can get away with it just fine. A point of danger is that they do not benefit from the zombie replenishment tech that helps you get those back a lot faster, but with any decent shipbuilding lord, you can mass recruit polearms if you actually need to. Well, if you get the one-turn recruit tech, you can re-recruit Prometheans just as well, though that's more expensive obviously. You do try to avoid losses, but they mesh well with a large majority of what you're trying to do. You can even summon the regulars with Lore of the Deep, just to delay the enemy's advance. Basically the mix of decent offense, better than decent defense, really good armor, and just plain crabbiness in battle transforms your faction into something that can slug it out with much more enemies, at least for a while. And that is very interesting, isn't it? At any rate, you can't use Mourngulls or animated Hulks with the same kind of constructive contempt. These crabs will hold. Not forever, but a lot more than what preceded them. Just don't put them in front of your zombie hand cannons and stuff like that. It won't end well. Bombers? That'll work just fine. Mortars too, for the most part. Take care, and have fun healing them back to 12 entities at the end of the battle, and ending up with 0 losses over end turn. I get a kick out of it every time I pull it off.